Hey guys, welcome back to Guys That Magic. It's me, it's Steven, and I'm going to be your host. I'm joined by Shane. Shane, say hello.
What's up, nerds?
Shane, super excited to be hosting this deck upgrade to the most wanted deck. This is a $300 upgrade. As Hunter likes to say, it's the bigger, the badder. How you feeling about it?
I'm feeling bigger and I'm feeling better. We're outlaws, dude.
We are outlaws. You definitely showed me in the $100 video not to trust an outlaw, and I kind of feel after looking at some of these cards, I probably shouldn't trust you again.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't, dude. Outlaws are bad.
Also, over on Patreon, we are doing some really fun stuff that we actually just started with the Outlaws of Thunder Junction set. We are doing a $100 and $300 to the backup commander that is only visible to our patrons over on Patreon. Super excited to kind of start this really cool stuff. If you're not a patron, go check it out. If you don't have the money right now, that's fine too. We appreciate all your support. Just leave us a like down below, and then let's get started with the video. All right, well, let's get into it. Why don't you remind me about your commander and what it does?
I'm playing with Olivia, the Opulent Outlaw. She's a red, a white, and a black for a 3/3 vampire assassin. She's got flying, she's got lifelink, and it says whenever one or more outlaws you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. It also says that you can pay 3, sacrifice 2 treasures, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, activate only as a sorcery. So a little refresher with this deck, your plan is to put out some outlaws, attack hopefully more than one opponent at once to take advantage of getting as many treasures as possible. And then with the treasure you get, you can either use it to cast bigger things or just make your entire team huge.
Well, awesome, man. I do love what Olivia does. It is slightly terrifying, these creatures getting larger and larger. And to be honest with you, really kind of cool because you can just kind of full swing. And with Olivia getting bigger, you're just gaining that life back when people retaliate.
Sure am, man. It's a good way to protect yourself.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and throw up on the screen all your additions from the 100. Is anything changing?
Nope, I loved all these from the 100 and we're bringing them over from there.
All right, fantastic. That's really good to hear. Well, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a dive on the 300 now. Talk to me about some of the creatures you're adding.
Well, I'll talk about the elephant in the room, and by elephant, I mean goblin pirate. I'm throwing in Dockside Extortionist. It's 1 and a red for a 1/2 goblin pirate. It says when it enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. This card is a menace in EDH. I know, maybe not I know, but I'm sure plenty of people have seen this card just go insane. And it kind of just does everything that this deck wants to do, minus, it's very expensive. But it is an outlaw. It makes you tons of treasure. This card's fantastic. The only downside of this card is that it has such a high price point, and I understand that that's gonna probably turn people off for that, but it's a bigger $300 upgrade, and with the bigger budget, I really wanted to throw Dockside in.
Yeah, Dockside is an include in any deck. I do love it. I do wish that it got a reprint and got a little bit cheaper because it is getting pretty high up there in price. But I definitely see why you added it, especially to a deck that cares about treasures.
Yes, sir.
All right, Shane. Well, speaking of treasures, I see another card that could possibly make you some.
Yeah, all the ads in this upgrade are gonna be dealing with treasure once again. So this next creature I'm throwing in is Goldspan Dragon. 3 and 2 red for a 4/4 dragon. They have flying and haste, and it says when Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes a target of a spell, create a treasure token. It also says treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color. Goldspan is fantastic. It is not an outlaw, so that's kind of a bummer. The treasure production and then the ability to crack treasure for more than 1 mana is insane. I think Goldspan will put in a ton of work in this deck, even though it's not an outlaw.
Yeah, I really do hate this card because, although it is 5 mana, I mean, it's so good. It's a 4/4. It's got great evasion with flying. It has haste, so it can literally do the thing when it comes down on the field. I mean, it's an amazing include in this deck. I think the fact that it's not an outlaw does kind of suck, but I mean, hell, man, to hell with it.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, and if you are lucky enough to be in Magical Christmas Land, in the $100 upgrade, we did throw in that Butch Deloria, and he turns things into outlaws. So maybe he'll turn Goldspan into an outlaw.
I mean, listen, all we need is a cowboy hat, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I see that we're done with the creatures now. I do see some fun instant spells. Talk to me about these.
Yep. I wish these were in the deck in the first place, but we're throwing in 2 cards that basically have the exact same text, just different CMCs, kind of. So the first is Big Score for 3 and a 1 red. It's an instant that says As an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens. And then the other one is Unexpected Windfall. It is 2 and 2 red for an instant with the exact same text. As an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens. It's just fantastic treasure production and card advantage. With this deck, you do really care about having treasure. I know that Olivia can help you make that, but just anything that you can have to create that treasure around her is very, very valuable in this deck.
I mean, not only that, Shane, but to be quite honest with you, card draw wins games. So I definitely like the addition to that.
Card draw does win games.
All right, I do see one more fun little spell here that is slightly terrifying in a treasure deck. Talk to me about this.
Yep. I'm throwing in this artifact. It is the Reaver Cleaver. For 2 and a red, it's an equipment. It says equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. And whenever this creature does combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. Equip cost of 3. So it is going to be a bit slow in the beginning, meaning 3 to cast, 3 to equip. But once you get past that, this card makes so much treasure, dude. It's dumb. And with that trample on there, even if the creature's getting blocked, you're probably still getting some damage through. But I think this card is fantastic in this deck, man.
Yeah, plus, I mean, the terrifying thing about giving something trample, especially with Olivia and her effects of putting counters on things, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just, I see this really rolling some people over.
Yeah, you can put this on Olivia and you can swing with her. And at minimum, if you don't bump her up, create 4 treasure token if she doesn't get blocked. Like, that's crazy.
All right, I'm seeing 2 enchantments that I really hate seeing. So talk to me about these.
Yeah, well, the first one, it needed to go in the deck because it does pretty much everything the deck wants to do, and that's Black Market Connections. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment that says, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, choose 1 or more. You can either create a treasure token, you lose a life. You can draw a card, lose 2 life. And or create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. You lose 3 life. Changeling is fantastic because it is an outlaw. Treasure token is fantastic, and card draw wins games, like you said. So this ticks all of the boxes in this deck.
Yeah, this is a great addition into any kind of deck that just kind of wants to go a little bit faster for sure. This is a slightly terrifying card because obviously you're losing a ton of life, but you know, Olivia with that life link and the fact that it'll just get bigger and bigger. I mean, listen, man, just take 6. You know what I mean?
I unless I'm dying, I'll be taking 6.
Full send.
The other enchantment that I'm throwing in here is Smothering Tithe. For 3 and a white, it's an enchantment that says whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a treasure token. I'm sure everyone's seen this card again. It is basically a nuisance because you're going to constantly say, "Do you want to pay 2?" And I know, Steven, you love saying that. A lot of people don't pay their taxes, so you're going to make a lot of treasure.
Yeah, I think the scary part about this card getting added to your deck, which I knew it was going to, especially in the 300, is my deck loves to draw cards. So
So
I
you're going to pay
don't
the
know
2,
if
right?
I'm not paying the 2. There's no way I can pay that many 2s. All right, looks like we're going to wrap it up with some fun lands. Obviously, this is the $300 upgrade, so we have some extra cash to play around and help us out with that mana base. What do we got going on?
In the 100, I added all the bond lands because I love doing that. And in the 300, since we have a little bit extra budget, I'm throwing in all the shock lands that I'm able to. So I'm throwing in Blood Crypt, Godless Shrine, and Sacred Foundry. They all enter the battlefield tapped unless you pay 2 life, and then they tap for their respective colors. So Blood Crypt is a black and a red, Godless Shrine is a white and a black, and Sacred Foundry is a red and a white. If you have these cards, just like the bond lands, I suggest always putting them in decks. I love them.
Yeah, these are hard not to include in a deck, especially if you're trying to help the mana base and get these lands out pretty fast.
Yeah, fast lands are always better.
Well, Shane, now comes the part of the video I hate the most because obviously to put these great cards in, we do have to take some cards out. So let's go ahead and throw up on the screen all the cards you removed from the 100. Did you change your mind at all on anything? Did you take anything back out and put it back in the deck?
I certainly did not. All these cuts made sense for me in the 100, and they will be carrying over.
All right. Well, with that being said, why don't you take me on to the creatures you're getting rid of in the $300 upgrade?
Yes, sir. Well, in the 300, I added 2 creatures. So I wanted to just cut 2 creatures to make sure I'm similar in the creature department. So the first one I'm cutting is Direfleet Daredevil. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human pirate. Got first strike, and it says when Direfleet Daredevil enters the battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast it this turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell. If the spell will be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. It's a cool card. It is a outlaw, and that's really cool. It's got an ETB, so that's kind of like a one-time effect, right? And it's more of just kind of like it doesn't make treasure for me. I really wanted to lean into that, and I mean, I guess what against your deck, I can target something cool, but for me, it just didn't do the thing I wanted to do currently, which is make treasure and keep making treasure. So I cut it. And then the other creature I'm getting rid of is Vane Witch Coven. For 2 and a black, it's a 3/3 vampire warlock. It's got menace, and it says when you gain life, you may pay a black. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It's got some cool recursion. The deck out of the box did have a bit of a lifelink sub theme, not only from Olivia, but there were other cards that did it. But in the 100, if you saw that, I did cut a lot of cards that had that lifelink sub theme, the gain drain. So the only real lifelink that you'll have is Olivia. So I just didn't think the card was that good, and it's kind of slow for the reanimation. And I don't know, I just didn't think that it made me treasure. So hey, they make me treasure. I don't need it again.
Yeah, I definitely understand the cuts here. To be honest with you, you could have cut the other, I don't know, 45 creatures that are possibly in the deck and just kept Dockside, and I probably would have been happy.
Yeah.
It also does look like we cut some instant spells. Talk to me about these two.
Yep. I had a 2 instance, so I wanted to make some room for it. Didn't want to go too crazy on the instance again. The first one I'm cutting is a very expensive combat trick. It's called Dead Before Sunrise. It's 3 and a red for an instant. It says until end of turn, outlaw creatures you control get +1/+0, and it gains tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power target creature. I kind of want to be just turning my creature sideways and attacking with them. And with this, you're kind of not doing that. Nothing really has vigilance in this deck or gives vigilance. So if you're not dealing the combat damage, then you're not tapping to deal damage, if that makes any sense. So I get that it's just maybe buffing up the team by 1. I don't know. I thought it was weird. And then the other instant I'm getting rid of is Helia's Intervention. It's X and 2 white for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. That's some pretty good life gain. Like I said before, there was that sub theme of life gain. I just don't think that I'm going to be leaning towards that life gain. I think that Olivia will do it enough for me, and I needed to make some room, so I got rid of Helia's Intervention.
Yeah, I definitely understand cutting Dead Before Sunrise. You kind of want to make those treasures and turn sideways and hit opponent's life totals, not really just take out a creature.
Yep.
All right, looks like we got a little bit of a theme here. We cut some artifacts, we added some artifacts. Talk to me about these.
Yeah, I wanted to make room once again. These two, I was on the fence for the 100, I'm not going to lie. They're both 3 mana rocks, and I just don't think they do it for me. The first of which is Bandit Hall. 3 mana for an artifact that says, when you commit a crime, put a loot counter on Bandit Hall. This ability triggers only once each turn. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or you can pay to, tap it, remove 2 loot counters from it, draw a card. It does have card draw, which we all keep saying that it wins games, but it's very slow card draw. Committing crime, it just happens when you play this game, period. There isn't a ton of it in this deck, but I don't know, I just felt like it was really slow, and then it's only gonna give you that 1 mana, so typically, if I'm gonna get a 3 mana rock, it's gotta do more than just that. Similarly, Bounty Board for 3 mana is an artifact that says, you can tap it, add 1 mana of any color. You can pay 1, tap it, put a bounty counter on target creature, activate only as a sorcery. And it says, whenever a creature with a bounty counter on it dies, each of its controller's opponents draw a card and gain 2 life. That would be so much better if it was just you. I guess you're not going to be giving it to the entire table, but you're going to give it to the majority of the table. Giving them card draw and gaining them life does not sound like anything I want to do at all. So I cut them both.
Yeah, Bandit's Hall, it's a 3 mana rock. I'd rather just play Commander Sphere. Bounty board, though, kind of cool, but I definitely understand your point. It's a little bit too political. I do think that it could be cool because it kind of takes the heat off of maybe one of your creatures and might waste some removal from somebody else. But I mean, listen, you're trying to make treasures, man. This ain't making treasures.
Yeah, I don't want to make friends either. I'm an outlaw.
All right, looks like we do have an enchantment.
We do. I'm cutting We Rat It Down. For 2 and a white, it's an enchantment that says legendary creature spells you cast have Convoke. It also says whenever your commander attacks, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap target creature you control gains +1/+0 until end of turn. activate only as a sorcery. But the first time I saw this card, and in the 100, I kind of thought it was cool. But after playing with it, it just kind of felt clunky. I get that the Convoke is there to help you cast Olivia if you need to. There aren't a ton of legendary creatures in the deck, but so mainly it'd just be Olivia. And that is kind of nice. But once again, when you convoke creatures, you're not attacking. And this deck really wants to attack. I don't think it did it for me, so I cut it out.
Yeah, I definitely understand the clunkiness here, and I don't know. I think this card is cool, but at the same time, it seems slow, even with Convoke. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
But you're pretty good at keeping a theme here, so I do see that you added 3 lands. I'm assuming you cut 3 lands.
You would assume correct, Steven. I cut 3 lands that I didn't think were that great. I'm cutting Canyon Slough. It is a swamp mountain. It can tap for a black or a red. It says it enters the battlefield tapped always, and it's got cycling 2, so you can discard this card. So you could pay 2, discard it, and draw a card. It's like a kind of a meh thing for me. It's tapped. It's cool. It gets card draw if you don't need it, but I don't like these kind of cards unless you care about things that lands in your graveyard, like David's deck. I didn't like it. I'm also cutting Demolition Field. It's a land that can tap for a colorless. You could pay 2, tap it, sacrifice Demolition Field, destroy target non-basic land and opponent controls. That land's controller may search their library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. You may search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I don't know even why this is in the deck, really. Like, we don't want to be destroying lands. Like, I don't know. It's cool, I guess, but I didn't like it. And then the last one I'm getting rid of is Tainted Peak. It's a land that can tap for a colorless, or you can tap it at a black or a red. Activate only if you control a swamp. That stipulation is kind of scary in this deck, man. Honestly, you only have a handful of swamps in this deck, so that is pretty scary, man. There have been times where I played this and I just could not activate that because I didn't have that swamp. So I didn't like that. I'd rather get the guarantee of a shock or anything else than this.
All right. Well, does that do it?
That does it, man. That's the 300 ads and cuts.
All righty, partner. Well, I'll tell you what, man. You were given $300 for this upgrade. What are you at?
At the time of recording, Steven, if you wanted to go and pick up all these ads, including the ads from the 100, you'll be spending $291.
$291. That's $9 short. That means I could add $9 to my 300, right?
That's definitely not how we do it, but hey, saving the people money.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. But one of my favorite questions I'd like to ask is, now that you've had the ability to kind of play a little bit with the 100, you've added these cards to the 300, what are some thoughts on the deck?
I think Olivia is super fun. She's just another take on turn them sideways and attack your opponents. I think that's a lot of fun. So if you're a person that likes dealing combat damage and then you like treasure tokens, I think this is a great deck to play with. Olivia's tons of fun. Even the backup commander, Bahan, I think he's tons of fun. A little different, obviously, but this deck as a whole, I was really happy with how it came out. And just even out of the box, I really liked it. So I think they did very well on the Thunder Junction Precons.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Down below, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Down below, you'll see the deck list linked to Moxfield for this $300 upgrade. Also, while you're down there in the comments, let us know what Shane should have added to the deck or what you think he should have taken out instead. We do love reading the comments. It also helps us with future videos with some cool ideas. I know it's definitely helped me out with my deck ideas. Like I said before, we do have some fun stuff going on Patreon, so definitely check that out. And don't forget to follow us on all of our socials. It is @GuysThatMagic for Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're on TikTok. We got some cool little shorts on there. Check it out. But until the next video, have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Bye bye.